So White Latin 2 students, thanks for coming in. I want to help you guys with the exercise you did yesterday, exercise B on page 205. We're wrapping up our last chapter here, but there's a few tough things in this chapter, so I want to make sure I go over this with you in detail. We're dealing with how to compare adverbs, we're dealing with the ablative degree of difference, and there's all sorts of things to be able to translate. So make sure you've already done exercise B, and then look over each one here and see what you did right, see what you did wrong, see where you're at, and then I will obviously be my office hours every day. You can come in and see me and ask any extra questions. Okay, so let's look at the first one here. Ut in horto ambulabam vidi aves, quibus pocriores numquam videram. Now this very first one here is just a little bit weird to phrase. I was thinking of the perfect way to phrase it myself, but the first part is a temporal clause because ut means as or when. So I said, as I was walking in the garden, and then here's your main verb. This is your temporal clause. I saw birds, and this is comparative, pocriores. So the birds, I saw birds more beautiful than which I had never seen. Okay, just the phrasing is a little bit tricky on that one. And the verb here is pluperfect of this quibus clause. It's pluperfect, and of course, numquam we learned recently means never. All right, let me see what else I could explain here. So we're at the point now where sometimes you have several clauses. Here we have a temporal clause, and then we have the main verb, and then we have a relative clause. So 3 different verbs in the sentence. You got to know kind of how the different clauses interact with each other. Okay. All right, let's try number 2. Paucis diebus ante rei publicae pecuniam dare tandem coactus erat. Okay, so this one has an ablative degree of difference here because it tells us it's before or earlier, but earlier by a few days. So it's telling us how much earlier. That's what degree of difference does. So a few days earlier, coactus erat is passive. And I just noticed in my translation here, I need to tweak the tense a little bit. What tense is this? Coactus erat. It's pluperfect passive. So this should be he had been compelled or forced to give money to the state finally. Okay, so just tweak my tense there. It should be pluperfect passive. So a few days earlier, he finally had been compelled to give money to the state. Again, this is ablative degree of difference because it tells you how much earlier. Rei publicae is a phrase we learned a while back, and it is dative because compelled to give money to the state. It's the indirect object of the sentence. How is dare used in the sentence? Dare, compelled. He had been compelled to give. It's kind of going complementary with coactus, to be compelled to do something. So that's why it's an infinitive. It's a complementary infinitive. Okay, let's check out this one. Primo adverbum quam calerme concurdi, diende victoriam principi nuntiavi. Remember, primo, when it's used alone, is like an ablative time when. It means at first. So at first, I ran to the city as quickly as possible. Remember, quam with the superlative after it means as blank as possible. So at first, I ran to the city as quickly as possible. Then I announced victory to the chief. I think that's what I have here. Yes. All right, so we got our primo, we have quam celerime, that's one of our things from this chapter. Concurdi is from curo, it's perfect tense here, that's why we said I ran. Victoriam is the direct object, it's accusative. Principi is the indirect object, that's why it's dative, it's the indirect object of the sentence. All right, very good. How'd you guys get number 4? Prima nocte, cives in oppidum omnia animalia ducere constituerunt. So remember, prima nocte is a new idiom also. It means early in the night, not just first night, but early in the night. The citizens decided to lead all of the animals into the town. So again, another complementary infinitive. They decided to lead all the animals into the town. The animals are the direct object because they are accusative. Remember that word is third declension I stem. What construction is this? Of course, it's an idiom, prima nocte, but specifically it's an ablative of time when, because it's early in the night, it's telling when the sentence is happening. Okay, and remember in used with an accusative word means into. That's why oppidum, it means into the town here. Okay, lots of stuff there on number 4. Number 5, similatque in syllabum venit, magnopere terita est clamoribus. So similatque is an idiom that we learn in this chapter that means at the same time as or as soon as. So it's kind of introducing a temporal clause. As soon as she came into the forest, terita est is passive. She was scared or terrified greatly. This is the adverbial form of magnus. She was scared greatly by the shouts. Clamoribus can also mean like loud noises, but it's an ablative of means. So she was scared greatly by the shouts or loud noises. Okay. So I like how they're putting a lot of our idioms, a lot of our vocab into these sentences. So we're seeing them in action and getting to get them down for the next quiz. In silvam, again, in with the accusative meaning into. That's how we translate like that there. All right. Number 6, postquamad sumum montem pervenerunt, facilime paterantum videre ignes. Lots going on here. Postquam is starting another temporal clause because it means after. So after they arrived at the top of the mountain, we learned sumum pretty recently, they were able to see the fires very easily. Facilime, very easily. So after they arrived at the top of the mountain, they were able to see the fires very easily. Yeah. Okay, very good. With number 6 there, what else here? Facilime, by the way, is a superlative adverb. It looks like the superlative adjective, but it's into an E, so it's a superlative adverb. They were able to see. We have the complementary infinitive here, going with the verb possum. Okay, so hopefully that one makes sense now. Number 7, milites caesaris multo fortius quam Germani in Gallia contendebant. So for this one, the soldiers are probably the subject because we see a plural verb here. So Caesar's soldiers were struggling or fighting fortius. This could be the neuter comparative adjective. That really makes sense. There's no neuter nouns here. So that means it must be the comparative adverb. They were fighting more bravely. Now, how much more bravely? Molto is the ablative degree difference. So Caesar's soldiers were fighting much more bravely than the Germans in battle. Okay. Anytime quam follows a comparative, it probably means than, and that's exactly what just happened here. So again, Caesar's soldiers struggled, or you could say fought sometimes for this verb, or struggled much more bravely than the Germans in Gaul. Okay. Number 8, legati officia quam diligentissime facere debent. This one I got, the lieutenants ought to do their duties as carefully as possible. Again, quam diligentissime, as carefully as possible. Officio, we haven't seen in a while. It's officio, meaning duty. So here it's accusative plural. And then we have another. We've seen a lot of these complementary infinitive. The lieutenants ought to do. It's a complementary infinitive. Okay, hopefully that one makes good sense now. Number 9, prima aestate nostri cum hostibus in Gallia diu atque accredere pugnabant. So we have prima aestate, which is one of our idioms from this chapter, at the beginning of summer. Our men, substantive there, were fighting with the enemy in Gaul. And then we have 2 adverbs. They were fighting for a long time and fiercely. You may have phrased that a little bit differently, but as long as the basics are there, you have the adverbs modifying the verb like I did. Okay. Yes. Cum hostibus is an ablative accompaniment. They were fighting with the enemy. And then in Gallia is the ablative place where. Okay, so hopefully that one makes sense now. Nostri is the subject, by the way. It's a substantive. That's why it's meaning our men. We have to turn it into a noun. All right, and how is the very last one here? Femina aquam minus facile quam servus portare paterat. So here, the woman is clearly the subject because she's nominative. The woman was able to carry water minus facile. What does minus mean? Well, remember, minor is the comparative adjective, minus is the neuter or the comparative adverb. So here it's a comparative adverb because it's modifying another adverb. So she was able to carry water less easily than the slave. So minus is modifying facile, and facile is modifying carry, like how she was able to carry. Okay. So these sentences do have quite a bit going on. There's some details here that I'm glad we got into. There still might be 1 or 2 that you weren't 100% sure of, so I encourage you to kind of bring those to me so we can talk about them. I can help you get this chapter down for the next quiz. And the weekend is coming up. Hope you guys have a great weekend because next week is our kind of last full week of school and the last quiz we're going to have, the last assessment of Latin 2 before you guys turn into excellent Latin 3 students. So I'll leave you there for today, and I will return on Monday. Next week will be some practice for the quiz, which won't be until the end of the week on Friday. Okay. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Hope you have an awesome weekend, and come see me pretty soon in my office hours. Walete.